Hey, babes. Look at all these babes in here.
Oof.
Mm.
I love when you make that noise.
Well, the noise.
Yeah, like,
It's a bit of a steel thing. Me and Bridgie do it to each other regularly, my little sister. Meg, not so much. I am now going to love you. I'm going to stay, but I'm going to turn my camera off because I just said to Till, I don't need to introduce her because you all know who she is. So, Tillie, I'm handing over the reins. Have the best time, babes. I'll keep on admitting people in, though.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I feel like I don't need to introduce myself, so I'm not going to, because everyone in here is very familiar to me. Hello, gorgeous people. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming. How's everyone's days been? Good? Ish. Are most of us lockdownies? Yeah. Oh, Jess isn't. Yeah. I'm like feeling the lockdown. In fact, I messaged Dal this morning and I was like, why? So that's where my roller coaster has gone today, but I'm much better now. I feel much more like centered and, it's so funny because, I was talking to someone, lockdown roller coaster is so right, Al. I was talking to someone today about how today just felt like a normal Monday. But because I knew I couldn't go and do anything, it was like I wanted to do all the things, which is just so stupid because I never do anything on a Monday. But like for some reason, I'm like, I want to do 75 things and I want to go to 75 shops and I want to go to brunch, even though it's a Monday and I'd be at work. But like in my head, that was happening. So it's been fun.
Because you weren't allowed.
Yeah.
That's why
it's like when I go on a diet, all I want to eat is crap because I'm like not allowed to do that, so don't do that anymore. Clearly.
That's why diets are crap.
Yeah, that good. Amen, sis. This is actually welcome to How Not to Diet 101. We've actually changed the masterclass. So yeah, I'm lying. Okay, well, I think we're gonna get started. Al's laughing at me from the comments. It always makes me really nervous when I can't see her, just watching in the distance. That's a really cute face, babe. Thank you for that. Okay, well, we're gonna kick off. So thanks for coming to the Intuitive Tarot Masterclass. I'm super excited to be talking all things tarot with you tonight. And I've mentioned to a few people, I think I mentioned it in a thread, that I could talk about tarot for like 70 hours. So we're going to try and condense it down a little bit so it's not 70 hours, so we're not still here in 3 days' time. But this is definitely a starting conversation, and where it's kind of gone, or where I've kind of been led with it, is it's a little bit of a tarot 101. So for babes who are regularly using the tarot, this might be a little bit beginner, I guess, but hopefully it's helpful and you take something away. And for peeps who have never used tarot before, you're gonna get a little introduction into what it's like. Remy, I think you're, oh yeah, there she goes. Beautiful. I was going to say I think your microphone was on, but now it's not, because I think you might be making dinner, but I'm just going to make an assumption there. So let's oh yeah, look, Al's on it. She's so good. Okay, now my train of thought's coming back. Okay, so what I would really love for us to do just before we kick off is if you can jump into the chat box and let me know between, like, not, if you type number 1, you've never used tarot before, you don't really know a lot about it, and number 3 being like you use tarot quite a bit and you're pretty like up with the tarot lingo, and then 2 somewhere in the middle, like kind of know. Yeah, see, This is very helpful for me. Amazing, amazing. Remy's got no fucking idea. I'm into it. Babes, we all start somewhere. Cool. Okay, well, that's super helpful for me. I guess I'm going to start a little bit about tarot just from the very beginning. So I've made some notes. This should be of no surprise to you. So I'm going to have a look at them and kind of work through and see what I need to tell you about. So I think one of the really beautiful things about tarot is that it really has every human experience in the deck of cards. There is something that really relates to everything, like every perspective, every life event is held in the deck of tarot. And one of the things that I love about it, and one of the ways that I use it, is to give myself a new perspective on something that is going on in my life. So I ask tarot, I pull a card every day, if not more than one card a day. And I use it as a tool to be able to give myself a different angle to look at something. And what I love about that is that it allows me to, see things from a way that perhaps my worldview doesn't give me that perspective. And I think that's a really beautiful and really powerful grounding tool. I think one of the things that I probably don't like so much about the tarot is that there's lots of rules, and I personally say fuck it. I don't follow the rules of tarot. So I actually Googled some because I was like, I don't know what they are because I don't listen to them, and I never really have. So, but there are things like people suggest like using a particular hand to pull your cards or that kind of stuff. And like, it just feels gross and restrictive to me. But if there is ritual and practice and things that you want to implement into your tarot experience, you certainly can do that. But I'm not going to give you today or tonight any like rules or things that you have to follow, because for me, tarot is about tuning into my inner knowing and receiving messages and guidance in I guess a bit more of a structured way than just meditation, which I'm sure all of you know I am not the best at, because I like to do things and talk and move and think, and meditation freaks me out, but we're not here to talk about that. I do want to just touch on something, and this is, if any of you follow me on social media, you will have seen me sort of responding, I guess, to some stuff that's come out in the last 48 hours around gender expression and language inclusivity. And I think one of the problems with tarot is that it exists within a gender binary. It is super heteronormative. It is super heterosexual. The lovers are always represented as a man and a woman. If we think about characters like the Empress, she is nurturing and soft and a woman, and the Emperor, her counterpart, is about power and control and a man. And so I think that is really complicated, but I think it gives us an opportunity to question some of those things. And I also think it gives us an opportunity to introduce a level of like subjectivity. A lot of what I think the tarot is trying to do is play in these spaces of energy, and when we get stuck with putting human terms on things, particularly masculine and feminine, which is descriptions that are used a lot in the tarot, that we put these human experiences on them, and are certainly not talking about men and women. And for me, masculine and feminine doesn't really cut the mustard. Are terms that I've really tried to kind of push past using, but I've never really found anything that feels right for me. And some people use things like being and doing, but I think masculine and feminine is both of those things. I recently read something about sun and moon energy, and that's kind of clicked a little bit more for me. But yeah, I still think we don't have the language to really express the intention behind the energy in the tarot, and we kind of label it with these things because that's the words that we have. So I think that's just worth keeping in mind. I think the other thing that's worth keeping in mind is if you're using a traditional deck, it can be kind of constrained by some things like abundance is often referred to or displayed financially, when we all know abundance can come in kind of all different ways. And often it's super thin, super able-bodied, and not super diverse. So there are some amazing decks out there, and we can kind of talk through some of them, and I can start a bit of a list going on some cool ones that are a little bit more, super white, Jen, like, super white. So just remember that you get to put your experience into the deck. It is a starting point. I really believe that tarot is a place, it is a jumping off point. It is a place where we can really create our own experience and narrative. And that, I mean, just is absolutely shown when you can have 3 different readings from 3 different readers who all pull the same cards, and you'll get a super different message. So I think this is a side note, but if you're going to readers, it's really important to make sure that you connect with them and their energy, because I think what you will come to see as we talk through over the next little while is that I think the power and the magical comes when you kind of strip back all of the things you should know about the tarot and start to put your own flavor and interpretations into them. But again, that's all based off the person who's reading, and in this case, mine or your experiences. So now that I've had my little rant about things, we were always going to start with the rant. You guys know me well enough by now. Let's talk about the tarot. I'm going to give you a quick little overview. So 78 cards in the tarot deck. It's split into 2 sections. You've got the major arcana and the minor arcana. The major arcana has 22 cards, and it's probably when you talk to someone who doesn't know much about tarot, that's the thing. They are the cards that people know. So they're all like the big sexy ones. They are sort of like those karmic expressions and the lessons that we have to learn through our kind of soul's journey, I suppose. And they follow the hero of the tarot, who is the Fool. And he or she or they are card 0. So they actually live outside of the numbering system. So you have cards 1 to 21, and then the Fool is at the beginning. And then you have the minor arcana, which are kind of the less flashy cards. They are 4 suits. I'm sure you've all heard of the suits, I guess the traditional suits being cups, wands, swords, and pentacles. And the interesting thing about the minor arcana is it's 56 cards, but it's really split into 2. So for people who are starting out with tarot, there are 16 court cards, and they are often sort of the most misunderstood and the trickiest cards to read. And I still sometimes get them in a reading and I'm like, I have no idea what you're trying to tell me, because they are really about phases of the expression of the suit. So you have 40 suit cards starting ace to 10 of each of the 4 suits, and then 4 court cards. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, that the court cards are the royal family of the tarot, which is like kind of gross and Western and all that other kind of stuff that is just, like, but they represent phases of each of the suit. So the page is sort of starting out and beginning and learning all the way through to the king, who is in the fullest expression of the suit and I guess the power or authority figure. So there goes that like gender bullshit playing out again. And I think what's interesting is that through the modernization of tarot, that's changing, like the language is changing, but for the most part, the traditional suits kind of come out. So yeah, that's the basics, I guess. Like that's your Tarot 101. What is it? My advice is don't get too wrapped up in what we're going to talk about for the next 15 minutes or so. But what I want to do is go through sort of the suits and the numbers to give you a bit of a flavor of the meanings behind the cards, because all of the cards have meanings. They all have themes, I guess, is how I like to think of them. And they can be all be read in super different ways. But having a base knowledge, unlike an oracle deck where there's a nice message or an affirmation or something, you know, no matter what tarot deck you pick up, the Ace of Cups is always going to sort of mean something similar. So I think it will be helpful for us to kind of go through what the suits and the numbers mean that popped up in the questions. But before I go there, are there any questions about my gender rant or anything we've talked about so far? People are smiling, so like you don't hate it yet, which is great. Awesome. So one thing I'll say before I kick off, actually, let me just grab it. So this is the Rider-Waite Tarot. Arguably, probably there's a question from Jess. Sorry. What if they swap out the suits for different things? Jess, do you want to unmute yourself for a sec? And
so this one I've got, it's cups instead of pentacles, I'm assuming.
Coins?
Oh, coins. Right.
Yeah. So that is it, when we go through it, when I'm talking about pentacles, they've just used a different language. And like if we look at there's this, I've got this tarot deck, which is the Muse, and she uses emotions, inspiration, voices, and materials, which are like completely different. So people, I guess it's like part of that modernization around changing some language. But yeah, I think for the most part, those four kind of exist. It's sort of like a playing deck, right? You have hearts, clubs, all the other ones. What is the main difference between the Rider-Waite and the Thoth? That's a great question, Jen. I think I don't know much about the Thoth Tarot, if I'm being super honest, because this has always been my go-to. So Elle might know. Do you?
I think that the Thoth Tarot is more about like gods and goddesses and that kind of. It's like a more like an outer worldly kind of vibe to it, whereas the Rider-Waite has people in it. I could be completely wrong. I don't have a Thoth Tarot, but I know that Vix uses one, and she really likes it. So it's just it's like lots of different tarots. You know, there's so many different versions coming out now, but it's all still the same system. It's just how they're differently expressed.
I just Googled it because I wanted to know the answer.
Am I right?
And yeah, and it also says that the writer basically took the Rider-Waite and then changed some names and added some extra characters into it. So it's based off the Rider-Waite. So there you go. We all learned something today.
Cool.
If that's the only thing you learn, I have taught you something. So what I wanted to just say about this is if you haven't got a tarot deck, I recommend, and you want to get into it, this is the deck that I recommend you get first. And the reason that I recommend it is because most tarot decks are based off this baby. People call it the Rider-Waite deck. Funnily enough, it should be known as the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Pamela Colin Smith was the illustrator and the only woman in the team. And funnily enough, history has forgotten her. So A. Waite wrote the tarot and Rider was the publisher. So the publisher gets a mention, but not the amazing woman who did all the imagery that's kind of lasted through life. And one of the things that I love about this is that the people who created it were part of this group that was founded by the Freemasons called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And they were like these people in this occult society that did like, they all got together and hung out, and I just imagine them having like rituals in a field or something, because that's where my mind goes. And they were really into Egyptian astrology and all of that kind of stuff. So I just think that's fascinating that that's where the modern tarot kind of came from. Yeah, that was a weird side place to go, but we went there. The Order, yeah, I'm into that. I haven't seen that show, Alicia, but it's going on my list. Is it on Netflix or something?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's quite good. Some of it's a bit like
Into it.
Like a bit, I don't know the best word to use, wanky.
Yeah.
That's a good word to describe it. But it is good. But it definitely it actually reminded me a bit of Freemason stuff when I was watching it. I'm like, oh, this is like a little bit manly, so like typical white male thinking they're the boss of the world, and yeah.
Oh, and then a raising woman. Are we surprised?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So anyway, there you go. Fun fact number 2 of Intuitive Tarot with Tillie. You're so welcome. Your life's better for it, trust me. My intuition tells me that's the truth. Okay, so let's have a talk about the suits. One really lovely way, and one way that I learned to read the suits, is to associate them with an element. So earth, water, wind, and fire. So Pentacles is earth. It represents money, security, planning, all of those kind of physical, material things. And something, and I can't remember where I picked this up, but one of the things that I remember from really early on in my tarot adventure, I suppose, is that Pentacles goes with the phrase I possess. So if you can think about, it's earthly, it's like materials, it's things that you own. Wands is associated with fire, and that is that sort of communication and creation, and the phrase that goes with that is I desire. So it's all of those kind of things that exist that you want to bring out. Cups is associated with water, and that is your emotions and your relationships. And no surprises there, that's I feel. And probably, well, no surprises for me is that cups are the suit that I feel most closely attuned to. And that is my Cancer sun and my Pisces moon, water signs. And yeah, that sort of emotional relationship building space. And then swords is air. And it's all about decision making and the mind, and no surprises, the phrase is I think. And when you can start to associate each of the suits with either the element or the phrase, as you start to read the cards, you can kind of, go back to those things. Yeah, I can totally say the phrases again. So for Pentacles, it's I possess. For Wands, it's I desire. Cups is I feel. And Swords is I think. And so then you have this kind of base to start understanding the tarot. As I mentioned in the minor arcana, we start with an ace and we go to 10. Ace is also 1. So there's not ace and then 1. Ace is the beginning. And we go up to 10 and then we go into the court cards. What I think is really interesting is that tarot brings in numerology, right? So as you start to explore the meaning of numbers, and particularly when you look across the tarot, I've got a little PDF that I'm going to put in the forest after this call. That's basically a tarot cheat sheet that has all of the cards and their like main themes. The reason that I didn't want to give it to you before is because we're going to have a little like intuitive test, and it would be no fun if you knew what the themes were. So yeah, anyway, so that will, I don't, as I'm kind of like rabbiting this off, if you can't keep up, most of it's in this cheat sheet, and also I can put anything, if we miss anything, I can put that together too. So when we look at the numbers, if we know that all of the ones or all of the aces mean beginnings or new energy or creation, and then we know that cups is emotions or feelings, then we can deduct that the Ace of Cups is a beginning of a new feeling or an emotion or a new relationship. So there is like a really, it's a pretty simple structure. It's just that there are a lot of cards to remember. And when we go into this like cheat sheet or whatever you want to call it, it kind of goes a little bit further down. But on the base level, if you can remember what the suits mean or stand for, and what the numbers mean, then you can get a pretty good traditional tarot reading, just by looking at the cards. So would it be helpful for me to go through those numbers on the call? Yeah, cool. So 1 or ace, no surprising, beginning, new energy, creation. It's the start of the suit. And I think what you'll see as we talk about this is that we start at the beginning. When we get to 10, we've kind of gone through this journey of experience. So 2 is often about partnerships. It's often about balance as well. And you'll see that when we start to look at the cards. 3 is often a reminder of acknowledgement. So something that we need to look at or acknowledge. 4 is about stability. It's about foundations. I always get, when I pull a 4, boundaries. It always comes up for me. It's not a traditional theme, but it's something that is a theme for me, absolutely. 5 is sort of the opposite of 4, and that it's about the themes of instability and challenge. once you move through that instability of the 5s and you get to a 6, you start to see improvement and harmony come together. And then 7s are really interesting. It kind of, for me, this doesn't naturally make sense in this journey that we're on. And 7s often represent ambition or potential, which I think is really interesting because you've gone through this beginning and this balance and you've kind of got through the challenge, and then suddenly you're hit with like this renewed energy. And that's how I see a 7 kind of play out. 8s are about rewards and progress, and often 8s are the hardest workers in the deck. When you pull an 8, quite often that can be a really good reminder in whatever theme you're sitting in that there's still work to be done, and that when you finally get that thing, that there is going to be a reward at the end of it, which takes us to 9, which is sort of that intensity and that building. We're really kind of ramping up when we hit into the 9s, and then 10s taking us to the end of the minor number cards, being your endings or your culmination. So I think one of the things to remember here is that you're telling a story with tarot. And if you can piece together a story, or if you can understand the journey that the cards are going on, you are opening yourself up to a whole new perspective on whatever situation you put in front of yourself. I think the other thing that's really interesting and something that's really served me very well when I've been learning the tarot is color correspondences. And this, I sort of was, I don't want to say lucky, but had a bit of an understanding of this from like tinkering and candle magic and those types of things. But color correspondences can be so helpful if you can't remember the main theme, but you can look at a card and kind of get a feeling from colors. I'm going to use the Ace of Cups to kind of demonstrate this, but it's basically all blue. And if we can, think about cups being emotions, the ace being beginnings, and we know blue to be about truth and clarity and calm, then you can kind of pick those things together and you have a story. So what I will do, rather than kind of going through the color correspondences now, I'll put that at the end of the PDF, because that probably will be more helpful than me just talking about colors. Does anyone have any questions about that? I know that was a lot of information, and yeah, it will hopefully make more sense as we start to move into the like intuitive bit, which we're going to do very shortly. The other notes that I've got, just based off the questions that we talked about in the threads in the forest, are cleansing your decks. So I have a lot of tarot decks, and I read for other people. So I'm always really conscious that, when I am reading for other people, the deck is taking on the energy of the other people. I'm also very conscious that I have a slight Kiwi accent, and every time I say deck, it may sound like something different. So we're just going to go with that and remember that we're all consenting adults. It just came to my head as I said it, and I was like, oh, yeah, what's a deck of tarot? Yeah, good. I'm really glad that that happened. We're maintaining a very professional enterprise here at the Forest, and we thank you for your custom. That's so good. Okay, I have many tarot, we'll leave it at that. And because when I read for other people, I'm very conscious that I'm going into their energy and I'm allowing their energy to come into the cards. So there are a couple of ways that I cleanse, and I regularly cleanse my decks, as in most times before I use them, particularly if I've used them for someone else, before I'm going to do my own reading. So as simple as taking the deck, holding it, just taking a few long, deep breaths to kind of reset the intention. And then I just tap the deck, usually twice, don't know why, just a thing that I do, and know that that's reset. The other thing I do, and I really recommend this if you're going to read for other people ever, is that you keep one set of tarot just for you. And I've got, I keep it in this beautiful luxe velvet bag, which is just like the most delicious thing. It makes me feel like it's a really special thing. But I have this Many Queens tarot, which I'll show you, is like the coolest illustrations. But I use this just for me. So it was expensive and it was like a splurge, and I decided that in order to protect its energy so that I could make sure that I was getting what I needed from it, that it would be mine. So if you're going to branch out and read for other people, you don't have to do that, but it's something that I suggest. So the other way is you can cleanse your deck, obviously, with smoke. People have done like all sorts of things. I see people do like crystal cleansing. You can cleanse them under the moon if that's your thing. I find smoke to just be really efficient because you can either light incense or a sage bundle or any of those, whatever you used to cleanse with. So yeah, but as much as that's all really like sexy and looks really good on Instagram if you're going to take a reel, you can just literally hold it to your heart, reset the intention, and tap it just to clear any energy that's existing. It's like the easy, lazy witch edition, if you like. How often do I cleanse? Basically every time I read. So if I'm going to do a reading for a client, I will go through I have a whole process. That includes like making sure that my energy is protected, and yeah, asking Source and my guides to kind of be with me when I'm going through the process. And I will do that for every person. For me, when I pull my daily card just to kind of set my intention or my mood, I generally don't. But again, I'm using the deck that's just for me, so I don't feel like I need to, but yeah, and singing bowls would be the most lush way to do it. And if I had a singing bowl, I would do that every day because that's on my wish list. Elle and I were just talking about that the other day, like how delicious that would be. And I have no idea how to use them or anything like that, but it's just like the idea. Yeah, I would allow the sound to, just the same way that I do with the smoke, kind of move it through that energy of the singing bowl. Is that what you are asking, Jess, or with the smoke? Yeah, cool, awesome. In terms of shuffling, everyone's going to do it their own way. I'm like the weirdest card shuffler. People are always like, oh, that one just like fell out of the deck. And I'm like, oh, I just dropped my deck everywhere. So yeah, I've got no tips for you on shuffling like a lady or anything like that, because that's not how I do it. There are some things you can do if you want to make sure that it's well shuffled, I guess. You can cut the deck into 3 normally, put them back together. I often, when I'm picking my own card in the morning, won't pick from the top or the bottom. I kind of let myself go where I need to go in the deck. And I think that's really important. That's kind of activating that intuition and not just relying on the manual process of shuffling. And yeah, when I pull like a card for the collective on the new moon, that's how I do it as well. So just sort of wherever my intuition takes me. What else have I got for you? Yeah, let's move to like the fun intuition stuff. So tarot gives you like this really beautiful framework, and then I teach you all the stuff, and then I say, forget it all. Which is great because now you don't have to remember anything. What a treat, right? One of the things that I love about the tarot, and I have said this a few times, is it's all about storytelling. And when you look at the cards, so I'm going to use, where'd she go? Here's some I prepared earlier. The reason that I think the Rider-Waite-Smith is great is because it tells a story. So we're going to have a look at the Chariot card together. Can everybody see that? Is it terribly unclear? That's good. Okay. So why I recommend if you're a beginner, you get the Rider-Waite-Smith is because this is a Chariot card from that deck. And then if you pick a much cooler, funkier card, this is also a Chariot card. And this doesn't tell you a lot. I mean, it's cute, but it doesn't let you, it doesn't give you anything, right? It's the same as if we go back to the Ace of Cups, which I showed you before. There's a story happening here. There is water coming out, there is a hand, there's clouds, there's movement, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. This one, on the other hand, doesn't tell you a whole lot. And I think that's one of the challenges with modern tarot. And it's like, this is one of my favorite decks. It's the Tattoo Tarot. But that doesn't tell me anything. It just looks really pretty. So it's great if you know what they mean. It's not helpful when you are starting to learn to tap into your intuition. One of the things that I want to talk about is how you get those messages, right? So you've pulled a card, you're looking at it, you've had a look at the characters, you've had a look at kind of what's going on in the background, you've taken a note of the colors and kind of got an idea of the energy, and you're still like, what the frick does this mean? Happens all the time, and it happens to me all of the time. And this is where I think the beauty of being an intuitive tarot reader comes in, because you can allow yourself and your intuition to take everything that's meant to be and throw it out the window, basically. So does everyone know about the 5 clairs? Has Al dropped that in the forest? Is that a thing? No. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to teach you about them, because then these are things. Oh, Al's doing a little like boogie down in the corner of my screen. These are things that you can tap into to get in touch with your intuition. So I'm pretty sure everyone has heard of clairvoyance, right? And so clairvoyance is when you see things. And this is probably the clair that I have least. So clairvoyance is when, Al takes us on a beautiful meditation and we're walking through a forest and you can see the trees and you can, it's like a movie is playing out in your head, or you get an image of something, that is clairvoyance, right? It's certainly not my strongest point of intuition, and something that I should work on, but don't. We're not all perfect, and that's okay. Then you have clairsentient, and that is your feelings. So that is when you can feel the energy of an experience, or I feel like this is really closely linked to that kind of empath life, like that tangible feeling of things. When I do a reading, I often write in the readings, I feel like, because I get like really strong feeling sensations come through. When you're clairaudient, you hear. So when we were doing the amazing light language activation with Al the other night, and you could hear things coming through, that was developing your clairaudience, and its perceptions of sound and tones and vibrations. And I actually think Al told me this, but it's always stuck. It's like when you get that like ear ringing and you don't know why, like, you know, when you go to a really loud show before COVID and like you were allowed to go out to live music, and you would come home and your ears were ringing because you were standing next to the speaker and you forgot. It's like that sound, except you haven't been out somewhere and damaged your eardrums. And then claircognizance is the last of the clairs, and that is pretty similar to clairsentient in the feeling, but it's just a deep internal knowing. It's just like immediately knowing the answer. Like if you've ever just not, like you've got to a fork in the road and you just know what way to go, that's your claircognizance. It's like a direct channel to source that just goes, ah, and it's just there, which is like so delicious when it happens. And I think those moments when like it happens, it's like, wow, that's like the magic right there, you know. And I think what's really beautiful about this concept is that you have access to all of them, and some of them will be stronger and some of them you'll need to work on developing, and some of them you might never use because it's not your thing, but you have access to all of these things. And when you look at a tarot card, when you have no fucking idea what it's telling you, you have this beautiful permission to allow yourself to tap into these things. For me, it's totally the feeling, and sometimes the knowing. I guess like I just know what the message is, and then I'll look at my cheat sheet or think about what the book says, and it'll be the complete opposite message. But I follow that intuition, because that for me is so much more powerful than a book that someone else has written that's telling me what a card should say. So how do you develop it, I guess, is the like big elephant in the room question, because it's all good knowing all of this stuff. And I wish I had a simple answer for you, but I don't. I truly believe that the way to get in touch with your, sorry, Jen, I'm so sorry. I truly believe that the way to get in touch with your inner like tarot goddess is to practice it. It's to get to know your deck. It's to get to know your intuition. It's to pull a card every day. And I'm going to, on Wednesday, pop a little challenge into the forest where we do a bit of an accountability challenge. And originally it was going to be 7 days, but it's now going to be 10 days. And why? Because I feel like it should be. So it's going to be 10 days because I think that's what we need to do. And so you can play along if you would like. I'll put some like guidelines up, but basically the way I kind of think it's going to work is we'll pull a card every day. We can pop it into the thread and you can tell us what it means for you. I know that it can be like scarily confronting to put that stuff out there, but we're in like a safe, loving environment. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it every day for 10 days. And I think part of the reason that I want to do this challenge is because I haven't pulled a card a day for the whole of February. So I was like, hey, accountability for myself. Let's get it. But I think one of the most powerful things that you can do with your tarot is getting to know it, to get it right, because there is no right. It goes back to, I heard a story once, I don't know where this came from, of someone who pulled the moon card. And the moon is a weird card in tarot. It's sort of like the themes of the moon are like intuition, but like weird and wild and like in the shadows kind of vibe. And I've never got that from that card. That is not what I get from the moon ever. And what I think is interesting is that, you know, someone told me that I was wrong. I was like, how can I be wrong in my interpretation of something? It's not hurting anyone, and it actually makes more sense for me when I'm connected to it because it's what it's telling me. So I encourage you, I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but I'm going to do it, to throw the book out, to say, fuck the book. Because once you have a few key little things, the tarot is a tool for you to tap in to source. It is a tool for you to tap into your intuition. It is a tool for you to shift perspective and look in a different way. One thing I want to say, Megan, swearing off books, like tarot books, my queen. Honestly, I have like 7 or 8. And I was always like, if I just memorize the books, I'm going to be good to go. And it's like, but every book tells you something different, because what people forget is that it's all about your story. So I'm happy to give you 2 book recommendations if you need a book, but you don't need a book. And I promise you, this is like the trying to balance. You don't need a book, but if you have never used tarot or it feels really scary, I totally get the want for one. And the guidebooks that come in them can be even less helpful than some of the information that I'm giving you now. So I'm going to show you them. I will put them at the bottom of when we put the thing up as well, when we put the recording up too. This is the first one, and this is a book that I use frequently, and it's called What the Fuck is Tarot? And the byline is, and how the fuck do I do it? The reason that I love this book is that it's got, for each card, it has like the themes, and it gives you a whole lot of words. So immediately, even if you don't read anything else, you kind of have a starting point for what the kind of feelings are. Then it's got like a bit of a meaning, but then the author goes into an anecdote about like when something has happened, and that theme has come up. So she makes it really personable, and it's also like quite thin, so you can like read it really quickly. It's also really sweary, and I love a sweary book, so strong recommendation there. And the other one that I love and it's more like a novel, I guess, is Modern Tarot by Michelle T. And it's like a chunky little babe. And the reason that I love this is because she was the first author that I ever read who talked about gender being bullshit in the tarot. And the way that she kind of describes everything, she tells the story of the card. I'm just like looking to see if there's a good one that I can tell you. But also the reason that I love it is that each card has a little ritual. I don't know why I tried to just show you the page like you could read it. Why not? We'll go with it. So when we got, I'm just going to find one because it's super cool. So for the fool, it's like, be the fool, make a fool's pouch. She teaches you how to do that. She teaches you how to tap into the energy of the fool. She gives you like a little ritual to do with your fool's pouch, and then she shows you how to get rid of it. And then for the magician, there's like this full-on witchy spell where you like burn stuff, which is like right up my alley because I love setting things on fire. And so it's cool because what it does, I think what this one does that is not like your standard tarot, is it gives you experiences which allows you then to kind of like tap into a different part of your brain to put that memory that, oh, that's what the fool was about. So yeah, they're the only 2 tarot books I'll ever recommend. You can buy like 75 tarot encyclopedias that all say the same boring thing, but honestly, you can download it for free on the internet at this point. Like, if you really want a guidebook, there's so many people who have made a lot of money sharing information. But also, I'm going to give you a cheat sheet so you don't need a book. How good are we? Like, this is just value upon value upon value here, peeps. We're just serving it up. It's 8 o'clock, but we're just going to keep talking for like a little bit more because I've gone through 1 page of my notes and there were 4. So here we are. This is great. What I would love is if you have a question about tarot, about intuition, about intuitively reading tarot, hit me with it. We're gonna go interactive here. You don't have to type it. You can take yourself off mute, or you can type it if you don't want to talk to me. Surely someone's got something. Yeah. Aura, I think you're on mute. You're talking, your lips are moving, but I can't hear you.
I don't know what the deal is with this freaking mute. It never works. Did it work then? Okay. Hi. Okay. I've got 2 things that I wanted to say.
Go.
I feel like a bit of a hack if I say like, oh, people might find this helpful because I know next to nothing, but people might find it helpful. So be it.
I'll probably find it helpful. You're probably about to change my life.
No. I was just going to say, for anyone that's into astrology, I found it really helpful. Because in each of the major arcana, there's one that represents each star sign. So I don't know if you were going to go into that or not, Tillie, but I didn't want to forget to say it.
No,
I'm not sure anyway.
I wasn't, but it's such a good point.
Oh, okay. So yeah, because I don't know that much in tarot, but I've sort of found like you sort of touched on the elements, and I know like a little bit about astrology, so I've sort of come into it from that angle. The other thing that I wanted to say was, or I wanted to know your opinion on, was reverse cards, because personally, I don't really subscribe to it. Like, I feel like that there's enough cards to tell the story, let alone having to have extra definitions for each thing. So can you sort of touch on that and give us, any information that you can, basically?
Totally. So reverse cards are super interesting. When I'm reading for clients, I don't use reverse cards for that exact reason, because like I said at the beginning, there is a card for literally every human experience. So why do we need, like, let's look at like the 3 of Cups, right? It's like community and friendship and like celebration and that sort of thing. Why do we need a reverse for it when we've already got it in like basically the same kind of reverse theme we would find like in the Seven of Swords. So I think that when you are starting out, it complicates things. Tarot already feels complicated enough when you don't have a base foundation. So my advice to you is that if you are starting out, or even if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, flip the card upside down. If you are reading reversals, something I mentioned before, there's like, apparently you're meant to read with your right hand or something. I don't know, not a rule that I follow. It's a really good idea if you are planning to read reversals though, to make sure you don't flip the card upside down, like you flip it left to right when you reveal it, I suppose, because if you're into this like reversal thing, you can basically change the whole meaning of a card. So yeah, for me, I'm not into reversals. I think it's a complication that is unnecessary. But that's me, you know. I think if it feels good for you, then get in there and do it. Like Lani's just said that reversals make more sense to her. So maybe you're just meant to read them all reversed. Like maybe that could be your thing, and that's totally cool. There's a question here about reliable sources to look into Astro Connection for tarot. Have you got any, Aura?
No, I was going to say I don't really. I kind of just, I really don't. Like I can probably do a write up of what. Sorry, I'm not focusing because things are going on in the background and it's really distracting me. So I can do not comparison, but like what card is.
Yeah, I can track that.
It's not coming out.
What
so which star sign correlates to which card? If that's
I can track that on the bottom of the PDF too.
Okay.
I've got a guide somewhere lying around, so I can do a quick thing. I know for Cancer, because that's me, it's the Chariot. That's the like corresponding card.
If you have the Neo Tarot, Megan, I don't know if you do. They have in the back, you know, in the beautiful booklet, it does actually have the signs. So
she goes to the booklet.
Yeah, so it actually does
when you
have.
don't read the booklet, you miss out on all this good.
Yeah.
So maybe the lesson here is read the booklet, don't rely on the booklet.
I have to say though, like in terms of books, this is one of the best ones. Like the self-care section especially is great.
It's amazing. When you open, like it's huge, it's the size of my head. You open it and then the deck's here and then the book's attached to this, like, honestly, the designer needs like a raise because it's genius. The graphic designer in me like froths over stuff like this. In fact, to be honest, it's the only reason, well, not the only reason, it's one of the very high reasons why I brought this, because I was like, I need that in my life. And yes, don't throw the book like physically out, just like metaphorically throw the book out, guys. Please don't like burn books and say that it's like Tillie approved, because strongly not what I'm getting at, okay? I love books. I've got a large bookcase. The other thing that I wanted to say, and I think when I started really getting into tarot, I got super excited by all the options, as you can see from the shelf behind me. So I have 11 tarot decks and 10 oracle decks, which is more than any human being needs. And don't feel like you have to do what I did, which was get like sucked in by good design and capitalism, where I just like spent my wage for like 3 weeks on tarot. And my husband had to be like, do you really need another one? And my answer was always yes. And he was like, okay, cool. But now there's no room on the shelf, so like I can't buy anymore. But I think building a connection with the deck that you choose, and also getting to know that imagery. Gina, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to personally attack you, but also I'm personally attacking you because you have the same problem that I do. Yeah, getting to know one set of images and one set of stories can really enhance the way that you read. But I really do encourage you to look at the pictures and see what story is being told. What Felicity just asked, what do you do with a deck that you have not connected to? Yeah, really good question. I am a big, I like spend time with it. It sounds really like lame. No, it's not straight in the bin, obviously not. But do you mean like if I work with it for a little bit and I'm like, nah, not for me? Oh yeah, okay, so there's one on the shelf that's like that. Sometimes it's not the right time, and so I give it a bit of time. I luckily have a few that I can use, but for a really long time, there is heaps of people who love the Lightseers Tarot, and I think there's quite a few people in here who know it. I was gifted the Lightseers, and then I didn't use it for like probably 6 months because I couldn't connect with it. The imagery felt wrong. I like pulled swords only, like it was just the only thing that came up, and I was like using other tarot and getting other messages. So yeah, I give it some time, and then I'm also like not opposed to giving it away. Which reminds me of one thing that I really need to say, which is somewhere in my notes, which are now like closed because I'm just off on a complete tangent here, is that there is this like weird stigma around some online communities that suggest that you have to be given your first tarot deck. And to that, I say, bug off. I think that is like gatekeepery bullshit that is trying to stop people from accessing it. So yeah, I was pulling the fingers and I'm like, whoop, whoop. Just like, fuck that shit. If you want tarot in your life, go and buy yourself a deck. Like, empower yourself to access the magic. You don't have to wait for someone else to give it to you, right? We're all on the same page there. Into it. Remy asked, I've been walking and listening. Lush. I'm really into that. When you use tarot over oracle and vice versa, just what you're vibing. Yeah, I use tarot to that's a really good question, actually. I don't know if I know the answer to this. I use tarot for like direction on something, and I use affirmation cards or oracle when I feel like I need comfort or a message or that kind of thing. When I'm reading for clients, I use both. So I pull tarot cards and then I pull oracle messages to see what they've got. One of the things that I love about oracle decks is there's like something for everything. I just bought this really cool goddess deck that's got like Lilith and Aphrodite and like all of these rad, yeah, Jen, your face was my face when I saw it. So I'll show you and then I'll post this as well. It's really cool. It's called Goddess Power. And it's delicious. It's so nice. But so when I want to like connect with a deity or yeah, that kind of thing, I tend to use oracle cards, but I use tarot cards much more for direction on a question or those kinds of things. So yeah, Jess, I ask questions. I was super nervous about doing this class, just being vulnerable with you, because I'm not a tarot expert. I'm just someone who does it and reads and loves it. And so I shuffled away, asked like, what do I need to know about tonight? And like the message came out and it was all good and it was totally reassuring. And like, I felt so much better after it. I'm going to use an example from Elle, and I'm sure she won't mind. When we rebranded Elle's website and all her personal branding. Yeah, she's laughing because she knows what it is. I was at her house. We were in the middle of lockdown. I was doing some like caring, which I hate saying because it's not a thing that I do, but I was caring for Elle because I love her, and we were talking about it, and she was like, maybe I want to rebrand, but like maybe I don't, like I don't know. I was like, let's ask the tarot, what should we do? Shuffling away, Elle asked the question, what should I do with my branding, I think was the language. And she flipped the tarot card, the Tower. So anyone who knows anything about tarot knows that the Tower is basically, as I like to call it, burn it down to the ground and start again. It's all about changing things. It's all about, flipping things on its head and letting it burn. So the next day we started rebranding because, go, Al, you're going to say something?
I just on that, I was thinking about that the other day, and about the conversation I had, because my brand that I'd had was less than 12 months old, that I'd paid someone to do, but it felt like I was sitting in the corporate park and the woo park, and I wasn't embodying my true self. And then I think now, like, what you have created is the brand is me, because it's My Little Ponies and happiness and stars and silliness, and that's exactly what I am. So it needed to I'm so glad that it happened in that way, that there's a story around it.
But it's so beautiful because you gave yourself full permission to be led by it. And Elle and I will often be hanging out, and I'll be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. She'll be like, let's pull a card. Like, we really do use it as a opportunity to shift perspective, and I think that's how it should be used. I think it's really important to remember that the tarot will not predict your future. You are in control of what you do. It can give you messages, it can give you signs, it can put things in motion, it can give you the reminders that you need, it can give you message from source, it can give you all of those things. But if you don't choose to action it, like, you're in control, right? One more like life tarot story. I shared this a little while ago and I just think it's so funny. I went on a weekend away to a caravan in the middle of like Victorian high country. I was taking myself on a business retreat. I was going to write my online program. I had my charger, my notebooks, I brought highlighters. Like, I was super organized, ready to go. Got there, unpacked, shuffled the cards and was like, what do I need to know about this weekend? Like, what do I need this weekend for it to be a success? And I pulled the fucking Hermit, and I was like, nah, mate, like, ha ha ha, very funny, what a joke, cute, universe, I see you. Put it back in, shuffled again, was like, right, I'm going to get really clear. I burnt some Palo Santo. I was like, really, like, I'm going to get in the space this time. There must have been like noise, clutter going on in my head. Shuffle, 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 pull a card, and it was the fucking Hermit again. And you can't make this shit up. Like, so I didn't do any work that weekend, and I came back to Melbourne and I felt like the most aligned I felt in like 6 or 8 months, because I gave myself the permission to listen to the message. And I could have pushed through. I could have written the program. It probably would have been great. Like, I might have launched it already, but I decided to let myself be led because I asked the question. So I think when you ask the question, you have to be open to the answer. Yeah, Alicia, I think that's super, super accurate. So Alicia's just said, so many people assume tarot always means the future. A tarot reader told me I was going to meet my partner, but I already knew he was waiting. We already have the answers. We just need to trust our intuition. And I think that's really true. So one of the things that I've started doing, particularly when I read on Instagram, is I've stopped like letting people ask predictive questions, because I think that there are yes and no cards in the tarot. And so you can ask a yes or no question, and if you get like the sun, it generally means yes. But also, like, we control this shit. Like, we get to decide. We have to do the work. Like the tarot, you can pull the 10 of cups and it can be like, yes, abundance and wealth is coming your way. And then if you sit on your ass and do nothing, like, the tarot is not just going to magically give you all of the things you want, right? So I really believe that, yeah, you have to do the work. You have to put the action in. So Jess has asked, you just asked today's going to bring. I ask, what do I need to know today? Because that's a little more general. It kind of allows messages to come through, I guess. Sometimes I'll pull a card and I'll be like, I've got no idea what this means. I think it's really important to, I have a tarot journal. So I've got like 7 journals for 7 different things because I like to compartmentalize my life. So I have a tarot journal and I pull a card, I write the card down, I write what, I can see everyone's laughing and I really want to read the comments, but I'm just going to finish the story because otherwise I'll forget. So I pull my card, I write what the date, what the card is, and then whatever I think it means on that day. And that's really informed my practice, and it's how I built the cheat sheet. I went through and took some themes. So there'll be some like themes in there that might not be like standard tarot practice, but hopefully it's helpful. So now I'm going to go and read your comments. I'm going to read them out so that the recording gets this goodness of whatever this laughter situation was. Aura says, I'm so guilty of trusting the universe so much that I do fuck all and wonder why nothing's ever happened. And we have got some supporters of this comment, which is so funny because it's true, but how good would that be if you could just be like, oh, abundance is coming my way. Hurrah. Yeah, soz babes. Hate to be the one to break it to you. But yeah, I think we can use the tarot as signposts. We can use it as perspective shifters. But I think at the end of the day, you get to decide what you're going to do, right? So just remember that the most powerful tool you have is yourself. That felt very like self-empowering. Come into it. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. Okay, I'm going to, does anyone have any other questions like right now off the top of your head? We're definitely going to have another tarot conversation because I haven't even talked about the major arcana, which is like the most juicy, exciting bit, which is probably terrible of me, but it's 20 past 8 and I've only just really told you a couple of things. So like I said, this topic's huge, right? We could, bye Jess. Yeah, we could talk about this for literally days. Because even once you scratch the surface of it, it's like, well, what does it mean when, we haven't even talked about this. Oh Lord, strap in. When you read like 2, 3, 4, 5 cards together, and then they start to inform each other, and then their stories start to mold together. And it's like creating like a painting of like experience and story and ideas, and that can completely change the meaning of the cards. So that's why like you don't need to memorize them, because the minute 2 come next to each other, they could mean something completely different. And I know that when you're starting out, this is like the worst thing that you could hear, because it's like, well, how do I ever learn how to do it? So I'm going to put the challenge up tomorrow. We're going to start on Wednesday. It's a challenge because I don't know what other word to use. Experience, journey. It's all like, it's a challenge. It's not a challenge in that you have to do it. But if you want to tap in and see, if you want to do like 4 days, whatever feels good for you, I really encourage you to join us. And if you don't have a tarot deck, which is totally fine, I will pull a card every day and I will just post the picture and you can put your interpretation of that card. And then we can have a chat about it. That might be a good way of kind of getting the conversation going. So maybe that is what's going to happen. It just changed just then because it just came to me, but maybe that's what we're going to do. Anyway, I'll write about it in the forest tomorrow. and we'll go from there. Or have you got a question? Is that a finger up question, or is that just a like,
It was a question, and I was like, I don't want to waste everyone's time. Oh
my God, not wasting time. Go.
I just wanted to know, I know you said personally you work with the one deck, but that's because you do readings for other people. But do you think, like, for this challenge that it's best that we use the one deck, or should we like just use whatever? Or I don't know, like if I should be like trying to connect to one deck in particular.
Yeah, my intuition says use one deck, and the reason is because what I would love to be able to do is, as we get through it, you'll start to see 10 days might not be long enough, but if you continue this practice and you continue to like do it with just the one, it's amazing what starts to pop up in multiple cards. So if you've got a Rider-Waite-Smith, once you notice one pomegranate, you start to see them bloody everywhere. Once you know what a pomegranate means, it changes your understanding of what that card means. So I think rather than doing like 15 different ones in 10 days, because they all look pretty, like I feel like connecting into one for 10 days would be really lush. Jenna's asked, on intuition, how do you know what's your actual intuitive interpretation or bullshitting yourself and pulling stuff out of thin air? I want to say you don't. I think how you know is it's that like you know, right? So I think when you start to do some of the work around identifying like what your ego voice sounds like, Al has named her ego, so she knows what she sounds like. I haven't named my ego yet, but I probably should. I just don't know what her name is. So stuff like that I think is really helpful. I think the more that it's so unhelpful, this answer is so unhelpful, but the more that you do it, the more that it comes through stronger. And I think, yeah, that's what I want to say. I feel like Al wants to say something. Am I right? Yeah, see? My intuition told me.
The way that I have practiced this when I first started was I knew that if the message was in my head, if I could feel it in my head, I was heady, then it was my ego. And so I would focus on like using my breath to draw it down into my belly, because it's a gut sensation. Predominantly when you're first starting, it's that feeling like I can feel it, Cath Day night, I can feel it in my waters. And so or I can feel it in my gut. So I would practice doing things like taking it, if something's coming through, taking a big deep breath and pulling it, like visualizing it, pulling it down in your tummy and saying, do I know this to be true? And then you'll get like a yes sensation or a no sensation.
Yeah, I love that. Do I know this to be true? I think
yeah, and it just means that you might have like you're not going to be able to pick up the card like a well-trained tarot reader or reader is going to go, okay, this, I've got the Seven of Swords, intuitively this is what I'm getting, this is what the card means, and you can interpret it more quickly. It just means that the process will be a bit slower to start with, but then you'll just, like what Tillie said, you'll practice and you'll just be able to whip things out.
And I think the other thing off that is ask yourself questions. So like, well, why does it mean that? Or how does the card make you feel? That's a great question.
That's a great question. Like I don't know whether you remember, Jenna, but when you came to me to Osh to have a reading, it's a conversational reading. It's not like you go to Mind Body Spirit Festival and I'm like going to pull some cards and I'm meant to know what color undies you have. I think like a good reader is someone who asks questions and doesn't feel shame around maybe not knowing the answer, and so the conversation is about interpretation of the cards. So I don't feel like you need to know it straight away.
Totally.
you're not that person, so how would you know?
And Liesl just said something beautiful, and I was thinking about this just as you were typing this and put it, but Raquel, like think about Raquel on the call the other day. She asked, was it true? She looked at her book and her notes because she wanted to like tap into that prompt, and yet she does this for a living and charges people. So I think it's really important to remember that if you're a tarot reader, you're not a psychic. Like, I don't claim to be a psychic, because if I was a psychic, I would have like got the lotto numbers by now, and I would be like on a tropical island somewhere sipping a pina colada. Like,
your soul was meant to. Anyway, I'll turn myself on mute.
yeah, well, that is where my soul's meant to be. I feel that deep in my intuitive waters. Or that is where my ego wants to be, one or the other, but we'll just go with whatever. So I think, yeah, that's really, really important to remember. And the other thing that Liesl said here, which is like, makes me feel so happy, is that I like to look at the card first and write down what I think it means. And then I look at the guidebook. And if it's right, like if it's right, then cool. And if it's not right, then what you thought it meant is what it meant for you in that moment. So getting out of like, well, I think it kind of could maybe mean this, and just like write it down. A tarot journal will change your ability to read the cards if that is your thing. But I encourage you to write because I love it. Yeah, and then there's just a comment here that says, I found working out what Claire really helped. I'm clear cognizant, but I felt like I was wrong because I couldn't see or hear. Yeah, it's so funny because people always talk about like seeing things, like they see the waves, and I'm like, I see the back of my eyelids, like cute, this is cute. And like, I wish I could do that, but it's just not my jam. Yeah, I love that conversation helped. There's a PDF. Al's got a PDF somewhere. She's the one who taught me that, so we'll find it. And are we putting it in the forest?
We can. I mean, I'm more than happy to do like it could be in that we do it in this forest if we have time. I've got like, I'm eating some hair. Oh, here we go.
2.0 babes.
I know, like I've got a whole intuitive level 1 development course that I can chuck into the forest 2.0 if that's something, and we go really deep into, and we talk to the Palladians, and we go up and hang out in their boardroom and all that kind of stuff. So I'm more than happy to do that kind of work with you. It's really wacky and fun.
So yeah, I think that's really cool to learn that stuff and just to play with it. I think I would love to, and when we do this together over the next little while, just to have a play. Don't put pressure on yourself to get it right. There's no right. You're not like, I don't know, you're not charging someone $100 to tell them what they want to hear. Like I'm not charging someone $100 to tell them what they want to hear. You can give them what you give them, and then that's kind of the end. The other thing that I just want to say really quick, and then I promise I'll let you go, is that if you decide to read for people, when you feel like you're ready to do it, I was smiling because she knows what I'm going to say, and then she's going to tell me off, but that's fine, is charge for it. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who I met on Instagram, so we're like online friends, and she started doing readings, and she was doing an 8-card spread, and she was charging $20. And I had to give her the biggest online bitch slap that I've given anyone in such a long time, because it's energetic work. It's a beautiful, beautiful gift that you can give someone, and people can go and spend 50, 80, $100 on crap that they don't need from Kmart, and yet they want to get like soul advice and intuitive, energetic powers to for free. So don't work for free. Alice just said even just a food swap at the start, and I love that. So make sure that they are energetically invested if you want to practice on people. But yeah, get in touch with your deck. Get in touch with your deck, babes. It's basically a Valentine's Day message. I'm not going to apologize. It's the truth. And have fun. make fun, let it be joyful, don't let it be stressful. And remember that you can always ask questions. I'm always around, and yeah, let's have some fun over the next 10 days, starting on Wednesday, where we play and make up some stories and shift some perspectives. Yes. Okay. An hour and a half. That's not bad for Tarot 1.0. I feel like Tarot 2.0 is going to come, because it's going to have to, because we have not talked about the major arcana, which is the fun stuff. So yeah, if you're in for another chat, we will do another one maybe next month, and we can kind of go a bit deeper and do some other stuff. Lush, you're beautiful. You're also beautiful. I love how it's got like progressively dark and Aura's now in the dark. And yeah, I love you all. I'm so thankful for you guys, for your energy showing up. I'm always so like stressed about doing this, and then I come in here and you're all just so beautiful and you make me feel really safe and loved, and I just fucking love you. So thank you. Have a beautiful Monday night. My husband's just made homemade burgers, so I'm gonna go and put one in my mouth, and it's gonna be delicious.
Enjoy your dinner, Tillie. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, and I'll get that PDF up tomorrow for you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Love you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
That was so good. Well done.
Was it fine?
Yeah, it was good.
It's so weird because no one talks back, so you just like fucking talk at the camera.
Yeah, it is weird, especially when they start to, like, I mean, it's good that they're following rules, but when they start to just type back to you and not take themselves off you really hard, you're like, it's like drawing blood out of a stone.
Yeah, I was like, so what do you guys want to know? Anyway, fine, we did it. Congratulations.
Okay with me, how do you not? Like, am I just making people angry? Yeah.
They were laughing and I made inappropriate sex jokes, so.
I feel that they understand that's part of our vibes.
Into it. Great. All right. Well, I'm going to go and eat.
Yeah, go and eat, and I will. This probably won't be up until tomorrow because it took me like all night to upload last night's call.
I'll add that stuff to the bottom of the PDF tomorrow anyway. So just all good.
Yes. Okay, we'll go and enjoy your dins, and don't let that candle burn.
I won't. I'm going to turn it off right now. Bye. Love you.
Okay, bye.